SSE is involved in developing projects, building projects, owning projects, and operating them over 20 to 25-year life. For the specific projects we have here in the Pendant Firth and Albany waters, I mentioned the 800 megawatts that we have an interest in. 400 megawatts of that is wave-based, 400 megawatts is tidal-based. On two of the sites, we're working closely with a couple of technologists, Aquamarine Power and Open Hydro, in the development of those sites.
We've had a turbine in the Fall of Hornus at the European Marine Energy Centre for about 4 years, and that started generating onto the grid in May 2008. So we're going through an iterative engineering process, swapping out turbines on the twin pile structure, which means that we can test the different iterations of the turbine and get it to a point where it's going to be commercial and we can start producing at volume.
What do you feel the global potential of tidal technology is?
Well, it's absolutely huge. We've done a few studies ourselves, but the reason that we're in there is we think that there's something like £28 billion worth of sales of tidal technology turbines capable if every part of the resource was extractable. Now, it's not to say that it is, but globally there's a lot of global resource in terms of tidal, and it's really understanding that tidal energy and how you can extract from it. So yeah, we think it's absolutely huge, which is why we're in the business.
Brilliant. And what issues do you think may affect its exploitation?
Well, it's certainly around the policy and the consenting side of things is very important. So you have to have the right policy signals and the right type of leadership within a regulatory environment to enable this to work. So if you look at the areas that are actually being developed, they're the ones where strong policy signals have come from government in terms of what they want in development, what they're going to give you in terms of your electricity, and mechanisms for support at the bottom end of projects. So things like the Saltire Prize and money through the Scottish Government has been very integral to actually developing the sites. And if you look at Scotland, that's actually led the way in terms of development because it's had the right policy signals and it's had the right types of leadership. So people are generally very, very supportive. Obviously there are issues around conflicts with fisheries and also the onshore works. So that has to be done in a sensitive manner, and it's all about stakeholder engagement. You know, you want to take people along with you through the projects, and what we don't want to do is get to a stage where we've defined a project and then people have to comment on it. So the initial stages of that are really to do events like this, where we're talking to people and we're finding out what their issues are, what their concerns are, and hopefully sending them away with a bit of comfort as to how they can engage in the projects at an early stage.
The company's called Marine Current Turbines. We run a machine called CGen, which is currently installed in Strangford Lough in Northern Ireland. We're very happy with its performance so far. It's a 1.2 megawatt machine, that's its rated power. It's been in there for 2 years now. We've had a couple of world firsts from it. We've had 2 gigawatts of energy delivered and sold into the grid. We've also had it operating for 6 weeks continuously at 24-hour-a-day operation, which is another world first, which we're very pleased with. There's all sorts of constraints which were put on us to get it into Strangford Lough because it's a really important environmental site. It's a SSSI and it's a special conservation area and it's an area of outstanding natural beauty. The list goes on. So the constraints were quite tight on us. So we've had to do things like 24-hour monitoring of marine wildlife, and that's all been happening, and it's passed all of that so far. It's passed all of that with sort of flying colours, so very happy with that.
And what do you feel the global potential is?
Global potential, obviously it's a difficult question. One of the best ways to assess it, I suppose, is to look at the places around the world where there's a very high tidal range, given that tidal range is generally closely associated with tidal stream. So you can make a good assessment by doing that. So some of the key places, other than the UK, which is a big deal, are places like Canada, where Bay of Fundy, where you've got an even bigger tidal range than we've got here. Other key places which are of interest to us would be New Zealand, Australia. There's a little section of Australia on the sort of north edge of Australia. Korea is another very important place because there's a big resource there. But one of the other ones which people haven't considered so much recently, one because there's not much information being available, which is becoming more so, is China. So if you head south from Korea along the Pacific coast of China.
And Simon, what are the main environmental impacts that you see?
Environmental impacts? Well, as I said, we've proven really that CGen in Strangford Lough has been entirely environmentally benign, completely benign. It hasn't had any environmental impact whatsoever, which is fantastic. The biggest one I can see down the line, and when we're talking about big arrays, is the fact we are definitely going to start affecting the tidal flow itself.
Right.
Probably nowhere near to the extent that something like a barrage would, but if we put enough of these devices in, we would actually start impeding the flow of the tides, and that's going to affect all sorts of things potentially. It's going to affect the movement of silt. It's going to change the way the estuaries silt up. It might change the shape of shorelines, but that's an awful long way off because we have to put a lot of these in before we start affecting the tide to an extent which is going to make any difference. Strangford is quite famous for its marine mammal population, so that's seals and porpoises. So because of that, we actually had a sonar installed on the crossbeam, and we have somebody from Queen's University Belfast who's doing 24-hour monitoring of that sonar system, and they also have effectively a switch. So if a marine mammal comes within 50 metres of one of the turbines, they can turn the turbine off. Right. So that's been running for the last couple of years. Enormously expensive. We'd rather not do it, but we're very pleased we have, and of course we had to. You can't put something as new as this in, which is potentially dangerous, and not prove that it isn't, and that's what we've pretty much done now.